My friends Joe and Mo and Flo say there's something that the city ought to know. Ottawa needs to have more public toilets, 'cause they can't find a place when they gotta go. Oh, life here in the capital can offer so much joy to share. But when you gotta go and got no place to go, well, it can be a very upsetting affair. Nobody would ever have to feel embarrassed if we had a toilet system like in Paris. Ottawa needs to have more public toilets, 'cause when we gotta go, we gotta go. Sometimes there's no time to stall when you hear nature call.
Karen Oxorn is a jazz singer and songwriter living in Ottawa, Ontario. She performed in Canada and the United States and in concert at the National Arts Center fourth stage, TD Ottawa Jazz Fest, Merrickville's Jazz Fest, GigSpace, music at MillRoad, and the Ottawa Grassroots Festival. She was a co-host of the jazz music program Swing is in the Air on CKCU FM and is an active volunteer and supporter of artists in the Ottawa music community and beyond. Welcome, Karen. Thank you so much.
This is maybe one of the limited opportunities for me to really use music as my art form for activism and for trying to get attention for causes and make changes perhaps. But I think like anything that we're trying to communicate to people privately, to a public, to the world at large, seducing them with music or art or anything that's cultural and interesting and maybe sometimes beautiful goes a long way to getting their attention. So I think that's one main importance, is that it's an attention getter. It might be something that has a bit of humor that is really going to get people to be interested without knocking them over the head, maybe with too much rhetoric. Eventually, the seriousness of the message has to come into play. But I think if you can kind of bring people onto your side with music, with art, with poetry, with all of these vehicles, I think that's very powerful. First and foremost, it looked like a lot of fun. The topic of more access to public washrooms inevitably gets to the point of what we do in public washrooms, and that can be sometimes a little taboo or a little off the cuff. Not everybody is that comfortable talking about bodily functions of any kind. And so when I saw that this was the main attempt here to get people's attention, to show to people that this is something that's a real important issue, I thought, well, this might be a fun way to compose something a little bit irreverent. I have been doing songwriting a little more seriously since the pandemic started. And while I don't have a lot of songs to my credit, the ones that I have written often have some humor to them. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to stretch my muscles in terms of my lyric writing and also to compose the actual melody. And I was already working on a song that would focus a little bit more on the pandemic. And when I became aware of the contest, I kind of switched gears and I thought, this is something that's very important, very close to my heart and other regions, as I've often mentioned to you. And I thought this would be a good challenge for me to write a song that's for something really important like this, that will have a message, but might be kind of fun and humorous. I think that I'm like many people who write songs, that the inspiration comes from a lot of different sources, especially so far as what comes first, the lyric or the melody. And I think in this case, the melody was really something that I had. And in fact, it's a much lengthier song that I had already in play than the, what was it, 60 seconds
Yeah.
limit, I think was necessary for this to be a useful vehicle for the campaign. And so I was doing a lot of research initially. It was something that I was quasi aware of, but I wanted to look into more of what this actual campaign for more access to public toilets in Ottawa was all about. I struggled with some issues related to this topic on my own, so I certainly felt that I had a connection to it and a vested interest to seeing more access for that. And so I did that research. I found out more about what's available elsewhere in the world for public toilet access and learned about um, a whole array of different kinds of public toilets, including ones that come up from under the ground and, all sorts of crazy things that are out there. And I thought, well, why doesn't Ottawa have that? And this would be a good way to communicate that. So I started writing more poetry in terms of what I wanted to say. Some of the earlier lyrics I had were very much literally talking about ways to relieve oneself, and they got a little too clinical for my taste, although they were kind of funny. And then bit by bit, I worked away at it. And at a pretty early juncture, I contacted Tim Bednar, who's a fabulous guitarist based in Ottawa now, and with whom I work probably the most, and sang for him my melody. He quickly put it into sheet music for me and prepared a track for me to sing along to. And once I had that music, then I was able to finesse the words more because I had the real cadence and rhythm of the thing, and try to find ways to say, we really need this in Ottawa, to highlight the fact that it's something that's a bit lacking. And what can we do to make this clear to people in Ottawa and to the power in Ottawa? And eventually all the things fell into place. I had a few rhymes that I'm particularly proud of, dropped some of the more, deliberate poo-poo pee-pee references.
Yeah.
I miss those a little bit sometimes. And eventually came up with a song that was just under the 60-second deadline.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the research that you did before or while you were composing lyrics really comes through. You were talking about Paris, comparing Ottawa to Paris, and it was, when I heard that, I was like, that's right. That's absolutely right. Paris is one city that has significantly more access to public toilets than Ottawa does.
I reference a little bit my own personal experience where I've had unfortunate episodes and would have been much better served, assisted, helped, whatever you want to say, with more access. Since COVID, I think people who do not have easy access, generally speaking, have been even further compromised and marginalized. I had a recent experience at a grocery store where I really had to go. I said to her, I gotta go. She said, I'm sorry, the facilities are closed because of COVID. And that's just not right. They have to make accommodations. So I think when you think of people who have issues around going to the bathroom or their monthly periods or whatever it is, as well as people who are perhaps living on the street or coming in from out of town temporarily, whatever their circumstance might be, it really is a human right. They need to be able to have access to a toilet. Even just riding the bus yesterday, this got me thinking more, what does the bus driver do when he's got to go and relieve himself? So it just is something that I felt strongly for my own needs and for the greater good. I felt this has to be something that is looked at with real seriousness and with an end to providing more access for everybody.
It can be a very upsetting affair. Nobody would ever have to feel embarrassed if we had a toilet system like in Paris. Ottawa needs to have more public toilets, 'cause when we gotta go, we gotta go. Sometimes there's no time to stall when you hear nature call.